This is the new entry level for Louis Vuitton high watchmaking in general. We go from an entry level price point which was around 3,000 to 4,000 euros to an entry level of around 20,000 euros now. And
wow.
We're not here to put a watch on the wrist of everybody. We're not here to look after people that are looking after their first piece. We're looking for people that are looking into something more of watchmaking, something a little bit more exciting.
Jean.
Hey Andrew.
Hello.
How are you?
My goodness, where are we?
Well, right in the heart of Paris at the moment. Looking good.
You're looking very good, and it's a special day. Let's
Correct.
not beat around. There's people watching this. They've heard something's happening today. It's an anniversary. Tell me more.
The most important day for watchmaking in the last 20 years for LV.
That
Simply
is
enough.
underestimating.
Yeah, so we're launching this new watch. It's completely repositioning ourselves within the industry. We're transforming tambour, making it much thinner, much more elegant, really going into the details of the product and the details of the watch in itself, and trying to reposition ourselves completely in the watch market in general.
Yeah, look, I'm relieved. That's the feeling I have. I'm wearing this watch on my wrist now. I saw the renders. The tambour's always been an iconic piece, but it's a particular ergonomics to the piece that make it a certain type of wear.
You can say it.
Can I say it?
It's a thick watch.
It's thick by name. I mean,
Exactly.
It's named after a drum. And actually, your team said to me, because I said it's gone from a floor tom to a snare.
Exactly.
And now, hopefully, they understand what I
Yeah,
mean.
man. 100%. I mean, the first idea behind this watch was to think about a way of thinning it down.
Yeah.
How can you make a watch which is still the essence of the tambour, but still making it thinner than most icons of the integrated steel sports watch craze, right? So
Yes.
I think we managed to do it.
Well,
we went from 13 to 14 millimeters down to 8. So
To 8.3. So let's talk numbers. I mean, and let me show you this. This watch is 8.3 millimeters. And what was the previous?
13 or 14 millimeters.
13. So we've shaved 5 to 6 millimeters off this. And the relief I felt putting this on was just, this is as comfortable as it looked, because not only have we done this, not only have we shaved it down, we've also entered this steel integrated sports
For sure.
category. And it is so comfortable. I don't want to be drinking the Kool-Aid too much too early in the interview, but this is very much where watches are at right now.
The idea behind it was really to put as much comfort as possible in the bracelet. Either the way where it pinches the skin, does it pinch the skin, does it not pinch the skin? It obviously doesn't.
Yeah.
And also the flexibility of it, and saying, okay,
Yeah.
how much can you actually go on this side of the bracelet
Yes.
to make it as comfortable as possible?
Mhm.
Obviously, you want the bracelet to be wearable on the wrist, but you also want it to, when you rest it on the table, when you wear it in your hand, when you're actually touching and feeling it, making it as fluid, as comfortable as possible.
And if we're going to talk about really geek out on the bracelet, we have this invisible 3-blade clasp, which, as you can see there, really is truly, you cannot see that link or that seam. You get the brand mark here, but there was some thought put into that too, wasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, to go with the thinness of the watch in itself, we didn't want to have a thick buckle. I hate having a thin top watch
And then the
with
big
a
bump.
big bump, big buckle. You can't wear it under the cuff or anything like that. And so the first step for us was to say, okay, how can we find the most elegantly designed and thin clasp that we can? And I think we found something quite interesting with this one, where it just fits perfectly. It's easy to open and close. It's very secure. But yet again, you actually don't feel it on the wrist. I mean, you see it on yours. It's certainly super thin.
Yes.
And it's not a question of whether that buckle is present or not. It's really a question of, is it functional or not?
Yep.
So that's what we wanted. This is the new entry level for Louis Vuitton high watchmaking in general. And all of the other watches within that entry level collection will go away. And so
Will go away.
Yeah.
It's such a nice way to say they're being eliminated.
Exactly.
This is a part of history that now stands in the past.
100%. So complete recalibration from one day to the next. We go from an entry level price point which was around 3,000 to 4,000 euros to an entry level of around 20,000 euros now.
Yeah,
And
wow. Well, let me ask you this thing, because we're having some real talk here. You are not mincing words. How does this represent value at this price point?
So we've added the sort of high watchmaking techniques that you might expect in high-end watchmaking, like hand finishing on the bevels and everything like that. We wanted that sort of modern technique to it, not go into the traditional Côte de Genève
Well,
and
it's
Anglage.
sandblasted.
Exactly. Obviously, I'm not even mentioning the gold micro rotor that we have here with the hand guilloché pattern.
Which is, look, Marcus, get in on this. That's the thickest micro rotor I've ever seen. 22 karat gold. It's got the LV motif on it, which is really catching the light in this Parisian sunny day.
I just noticed it because I was winding the watch.
Yeah.
The winding is completely seamless. And so what you get from
I haven't wound this watch at all.
most automatic movements is that as soon as you start winding it, you hear some sort of a crunch. On manual movements, you hear a nice crunchy feeling and everything.
Yeah.
On automatic movements, often you feel that sort of mushy, not very elegant sort of winding. So
Yeah.
either we went to the mushy side or we didn't say we remove everything, and so you don't even feel when you're winding it.
No.
It's like a complete
There's-
sort of buttery smooth operating it, just like if you were setting the hands. It's the same sort of operation to it.
If you're wondering if the new boss of LV watchmaking is a watch person, then I think you're having that question answered today. 50 hours power reserve, is that right?
Correct,
Yeah,
yes.
so
Chronometer
this is obviously-
certification.
It's made for wearability, it's made for robust daily life. And you have two of the greatest living watchmakers with you, Enrico Barbassini and Michel Navas.
Correct.
Did they do anything in terms of the design
Yes,
of this
yes,
one?
yes. They were very, very involved in the design of the movement, in the performance of the movement as well.
Mm-hmm.
The idea was obviously to make it chronometer certified from the get-go, which is not easy with the first time we do a three-hand movement.
Yes.
And they were involved in all the technical aspects and aesthetics aspects of the movement as well. And there are tiny little details that the sort of nitpicky watch collectors will notice, and that was the idea behind.
Let's go with some of those.
behind
What
the
do we
watch.
got? What do you got?
Transparent sapphires.
Yeah,
We don't have the
work that
traditional.
out.
We don't have the traditional rubies
Yeah.
on the movement, and we also have one small detail on the dial which is very dear to my heart, which is we removed the Swiss made,
Let's go dial side then.
and,
Because
and instead we put the Fab en Suisse. So it's a tiny little thing, it doesn't add any sort of value to the watch by any means, but it's really that sort of Easter egg that I want to put to the product,
yes.
and really try to bring something that shows that a watch collector was behind that at the end of the day. We wanted a few finishes on the dial, and we were surprised when we saw the first prototypes at the results that we get. I mean, you see the blue dial here. I love gradient dials, but I don't like just jumping in the bandwagon and saying
Yeah.
we're going to do a gradient dial to do a gradient dial. And
like we did, for example.
no, but I mean, it's part of the trend. It's great, but I don't
Yeah.
want to just follow the trend. And so
Yes.
I was like, okay, we're not going to do a gradient dial.
No fume.
And our artistic director had the idea of saying, okay, we're going to play on the finishes to give that impression of a gradient dial.
Yes.
Without actually having a gradient dial. And so that's what you see from the center of the blue specifically. The sort of 12 to 6 satin finish brings a lot of vibrancy to the dial that really changes completely the aesthetic of the watch depending on how you wear it. And it's the same thing with the gray one, where it really shines through, and it's
Yeah.
either sort of a gradient from the center or from the outside depending on how you do it. So it really shines depending on the light, and it's quite surprising at that.
Now tell me about price and positioning, because this is a competitive price point. There are some very well-known names at this point. How is someone going to choose this watch out of that mix?
The core principle behind that price point is to say we're not here to put a watch on the wrist of everybody. Vuitton, if someone wants a watch they buy from another brand or anything like that and want their first piece, we're not here to look after people that are looking after the first piece. We're looking for people that are looking into something more of watchmaking, something a little bit more exciting. And so we're not going to produce a whole lot of them, that's for sure, but it's also a question of saying it's a very competitive price point, a very competitive price segment, and we're going to go at it very, very slowly. This is the first step. It's the beginning of a transition phase for us. This is the first watch that's releasing. There's a few others that are going to come in the future in the next couple of months and years. But we're going to slowly enter that space, gradually pick up, and we're not of the ambition of saying if it doesn't work, we're not going to release 100,000 pieces straight off the bat and say, okay, if it doesn't work like that, we're never going to do it again. We're releasing, slow.
What are we talking? Put some numbers on this.
I mean, overall, you're talking in the hundreds, not in the thousands.
Really?
And so it's really sort of small production, and then over time, see how we can evolve and increase production. But it's not the idea of saying we're going to double production in the next 2 years or 3 years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's really a step-by-step process.
So where are you on these two? Blue. 100%.
Blue.
Yeah, me too. Marcus also agrees. However, I will say this does have a real phantom ghost vibe that I think is.
All of my team
It's
is for grey,
compelling.
I was the only one blue.
And then, do we have any other iterations coming this year?
So there's going to be a yellow gold, rose gold, and two-tone versions as well.
Excellent. Okay, and that's later in the year.
Correct. Yeah. Everything is going to be launched towards later part of the year. Big announcement that happened just now, and then we're going to slowly release them.
And how does it feel?
2 years of work, so it feels like a long time. It took a long time to deliver these pieces. We wanted to make sure that it was perfect, so we did countless prototypes. If you count bracelets, cases, dials, and stuff like that, we're over 20 to 30 different prototypes and different aesthetics and stuff.
Yeah.
And this really meant that we left no stones unturned to get that watch out. So it feels great.
Yes.
But it's only the first step.
Fantastic. Well, Jean, it is a big day. I want to, fictionally and through time-space travel, you are now going to walk into that day, July the 5th. But thank you for sharing this moment with us.
Thank you so much. It was great to see you.
Indeed. Let's
See you
go.
soon.